Hey there, YouTube land. Today I'm going to show you how to disassemble and reassemble an old Zebco 404. This will also apply if you have an old Zebco 202. So, yeah, let's go. So what you'll need is, in my case, I have a 3/8 socket to get this handle nut off because this is not original. And a 5/16 to get the nut that holds the spinner head off. And you can use either a socket or a wrench. For those of you watching who may be on the metric system, a 3/8 is about 10 millimeters and 5/16 is about 8 millimeters. So obviously first we take the handle nut off. Okay. And now so we take the handle off because if you want to get the housing out, you have to, because you have to get it out of this hole. Some later variants of the 404 made it so it is a U shape, so you didn't have to, but this one you do have to get the handle off, unscrew the cover, and you just screw it counterclockwise, or turn it counterclockwise. Now we're onto the spinner head nut. Now, one thing I forgot to mention. If you do not have a 5/16 or 8 millimeter socket or wrench, there is a slot in the nut that holds your spinner head on, so you can use either a flathead screwdriver or a coin to get it off. But I just happen to have a 5/16 socket, so that's what I'm going to use, but use what you have. So go on there, get that off. Now your spinner head comes off. Now we can take the spool off, and as you can see, it's held in by a C-clip. So what I like to do is I like to get a small, I like to get a flathead screwdriver, and then there's two, and then just push down on it, and be careful, these do shoot. There you go, heard it snap off, and your C-clip will snap right off. Now when you go to take the spool off, make sure you loosen your drag all the way. I've already done it on this, but if you haven't, I would suggest doing it right now. So now we can take the spool out, and the housing comes out, and you're into the gears, your drag tension spring, and your drag wheel, and your NI reverse lever. So the first thing we need to do when we get to this point is take the pinion gear out, and to do this, there's a little arm right here, and you move that arm. There we go. And you move it off to the side. Now this is your anti-reverse system, and I'm going to show you how to reinstall that on Reassembly. And this allows you to pull your pinion gear out, like so, your pinion gear assembly. And then you can pull your main gear out. Now your reel is completely disassembled, and you can clean and lubricate it. I've already done this on this reel, but I'm just showing you how to do this for if you're wondering on how to get this apart. Alright, so now let's reassemble. So first I'm going to put my main gear back in, and you can see the hole right there. And you just slide your main shaft in there. Now when you reinstall your pinion assembly, you gotta make a note that there's a tab right here. That tab goes into this slot in this metal piece, and that's what helps your anti-reverse work. So when you go to reinstall, just you push down, make sure your tab lines up with that slot and goes into it. Sometimes you have to work it in. Alright, there you go, just like that. Now you move your arm back over And now your anti-reverse system is complete. You can see how it's working in there. Alright, and now we put this back in the housing. Now, when you put your gear house back in your rear housing, there are 3 slots here. The big rectangular slot is for the drag wheel. The oval shaped slot is for your handle shaft, your gear shaft. And the small rectangular slot is for your anti-reverse lever. So when you put this back in, just make sure that they all line up like so. Oh, hold on, I forgot a step. Before you do that, make sure you put your spool on. And when you put your spool on, you want to make sure the teeth go down. And there's your drag tension spring. When you move your drag wheel, this can move in or off your spool teeth to regulate your drag tension. So you want to push up on this, and put your spool down. When you hear it click in like that, it's in. Then you take your C-clip. You want to reinstall it. There is a little slot in there for that. And for the reinstall, you can either push on it with a flathead screwdriver, or I just use a pair of needle nose pliers for this because I find I have more leverage. And it just snaps right back in. Oops. Okay, now you can reinstall the gear housing assembly. Like I said, make sure that all the parts line up in their appropriate slots, like so. Now we can put our spinner head on. Well, actually, let's put our handle on first, and I'll explain why. Why I do that. Make sure to tighten our nut down. Alright, so when you reinstall your spinner head, you'll notice the hole in it is shaped like a D. It has that flat part because your pinion shaft, things are moving all around, has a flat side as well, which is a little hard to see. It's right here, the flat side. When you put your spinner head back on, make sure you line those up like that. You take your nut, your spinner head nut, screw that, put that back on. Now the reason I put my handle on is it helps so that way you can hold it to make sure your spinner head doesn't go spinning on you when you're tightening the nut. And now we put our front cover back on. Just turn it clockwise until it's snug, like so. And now your 404, or 202 if you have one, is now reassembled and ready to go. So yeah, that's how you disassemble and reassemble a 404 for maintenance. If you haven't already, thank you for watching. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe.